I was driving in the Ohio Valley, 30 miles east of Cincinnati, when I had to stop for gas. The gas station was a small four pump operation located along the two-lane rural highway. Like most gas stations nowadays, this one had an attached convenience store and a franchise affiliation. But the gas station was country small nonetheless. The September sun was setting, casting shadows from the pumps. I wanted to get home to my residence in suburban Cincinnati. As I was getting out of my car, a man of about 70 came out of the store. He was waving his arms at me, and there was a frightened expression on his face. "We have to close," he called out. This told me that he was the owner of the store, or he at least worked there. By now, I was already scanning my credit card on one of the pumps. "This will just take a few minutes," I said. "I'll be quick about it." It wasn't my intention to bully this older man, but I knew the route. I would not pass another gas station for at least 20 miles. My fuel gauge was already in the red zone. "There's no time," he protested. "I'm almost done," I said. I was now pumping gas. The old man shook his head at me, a mixture of both fear and exasperation on his weathered face. He apparently realized, though, that he was not going to dissuade me. He spun on his heels and headed back into the gas station. As I pumped my gas, I wondered what all of this could be about. He had said that there was no time. It was around 7 p.m. on a Sunday night. Perhaps he wanted to close the business early for religious reasons? But if that were the case, then why was the gas station open to begin with? I finished pumping my gas. I almost left at that point, but I felt bad about the way I had run roughshod over the older man. I had been in a jam myself and I needed the gas. Moreover, I had paid for it, but I still felt that maybe I owed him an apology. I replaced the nozzle on the gas pump and walked across the gravel to the small glass-walled customer service building. The old man was standing behind the counter. When I saw what he had, it was my turn to be frightened. A shotgun was lying on the counter before him. It was a pump-action model that I guessed to be a 12-gauge. It had a wide barrel. "Sir," I said carefully. I raised both of my hands and opened my palms. "I apologize for the misunderstanding about the gas, but I'm not here to cause any trouble." He shook his head and gave me another one of his exasperated looks. "I'm not going to shoot you," he said. "Well," I replied, "that's good to hear. What is the gun for, then?" "It's for them. Sometimes they come after sunset, usually during the harvest moon." I had never spent much time reading the Farmer's Almanac, but I was vaguely aware that the harvest moon usually occurred in conjunction with the autumnal equinox. I had no idea which them the older man was referring to. "Is someone giving you a hard time?" I asked. The old man looked toward the back wall of the store. "If only it were that simple." "Are they behind the store?" I asked him. "Yes," he said, "but you don't want to—" I must have telegraphed my intentions. I figured that some local teenagers were bothering this elderly man who either owned the gas station or worked there. I'm not exactly a tough guy, but I'm a lot more formidable than a man of his age. "I'll check it out for you," I said as I turned and exited the gas station. "Mister, you don't want to—" he called after me. "This won't take long," I said over my shoulder. I headed out the glass front door. I walked around to the rear of the small gas station building, my feet crunching on the gravel. There were woods all around, I noticed. I really was out in the country now. Behind the store, I found a big hickory tree as well as a small picnic table. There was also a metal dumpster. The dumpster emanated the typical sour smell. There was something else that I hadn't expected, though. Behind the store was a sloping hillside. Halfway down the hill was an old country graveyard. There was a woods behind that. The shadows seemed to have grown longer during the short period since I had stopped for gas. Well, that made sense. Autumn twilight can creep up on you. "Anyone there?" I called out, looking down at the graveyard and the adjacent woods. No one answered me. If there were unruly teenagers here or other pranksters, they had gone, or they hadn't arrived yet. I was ready to leave and resume my drive home. I would stop in the gas station first and maybe try to calm down the old man with the shotgun. I didn't perceive him as an immediate danger to me, but he might accidentally shoot the next person who stopped for gas. Maybe I could talk him into putting the gun away. Then I heard movement to one side of me. I turned. Standing at the far edge of the building were two figures, a man and a woman. The man was tall and dressed in the tattered remains of a suit from the early 20th century. His female companion was dressed in attire from that period too. Her clothes were also filthy and half-rotted. But so were they. The man's skin was dry, discolored, and stretched too tightly over his skull. The same for the woman. They looked at me with glassy eyes that were animated, but which had no life in them. The dead man's mouth stretched into a hideous grin. My heart caught in my throat. I was in no position to make sense of this. Not in that moment. I had only one realization. I needed to get away. I turned and ran. Then I thought, I have to warn the old man behind the counter. Now I understood his reasons for wanting to close the store early and the purpose of his shotgun. I had just reached the front parking lot when I saw a blue Ford pickup truck exiting it at breakneck speed. I caught a glimpse of the gas station's caretaker behind the wheel. He had decided not to wait for me. I bolted to my car. I somehow knew that the two figures from the rear of the store would not remain there. With the driver's side door closed behind me now, I started the ignition. I could not resist a look over my shoulder before I took off. I could see two shapes, both making their way around the side of the building. They were heading for my car. I put the vehicle in drive and stepped on the gas. I took off, my car's tires spinning gravel. I didn't slow down until I reached the suburban sprawl on the east side of Cincinnati. I am only now beginning to process what happened. Although I have some theories, I will keep them to myself for now. I will leave you with the following advice. Strange things happen out in the Ohio Valley, in the country just north of the Ohio River. If you are ever driving in that region and one of the locals tells you to be careful, heed the warning. And don't stop for gas too late on a September evening in places where the undead sometimes stir and walk about. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed Don't Stop for Gas in Zombie Country. Now, if you enjoyed this combination of an Ohio setting and supernatural fiction, I'd invite you to check out my Uncanny Ohio series, which you can find on Amazon. You can also read in Amazon Kindle Unlimited. And these are much longer stories with Ohio settings and supernatural themes. They are set in, some of them are set in rural Ohio. One of the recent ones I wrote, The Woman in Crosley Tower, is actually set at the University of Cincinnati. So all of these stories, Ohio settings, and supernatural mayhem. Check that out if you're interested. Thanks for tuning in again, and I will talk to you again soon.